Good morning. Welcome to Daylight with Dean number 51. It is June 1st, 2020. No, June 2nd, 2020. You would think I would know that, as I had to head down to our church this morning. I got up at 5 to open our church facility for the voting for the primaries, as our church is one of the voting sites for our primary. So I want to invite you to head out and vote today, even in the midst of any rain that we might have. It's going to get up to 80 degrees, so at least it won't be cold on you. And God bless you. Great to be with you this morning. I have had coffee. Found my mug. It was missing the other day. It showed up in my daughter's room on the 3rd floor, and it just was like, she goes, "Oh, I didn't know that was a special mug." So I informed her. But I didn't use it when I grabbed my coffee this morning to head down to the church. I used this one, so here we go. Wow, that is just flat out good. Couple quotes I want to share this morning. I've been watching. Oh, and let me just say, this morning, I believe may be the most important Daylight with Dean that some of us have ever watched. Maybe the most important one in our world today, out of the 51 that we've had so far, 52, including this one. Now, hopefully you'll see why. So what I'd like to invite you to do is to share this with your friends. A week ago today, the morning I had surgery, that Daylight with Dean had, at last check, I checked last night, like 960 views. Holy mackerel. Well, this one, I'd like it to be the very first one that we get to go over 1,000 views. So what I'd like to invite you to do is, just when you click on it and you're watching it, there's that little arrow that says share. If you hit that, you can either share this in Messenger, or as I do on Sunday mornings with our services, you can start a watch party even. And when you do that, again, you'll see an icon that says share at the bottom after you start your watch party, and then it'll pull up your friend list, and you can just invite all of your friends that you want to see this. It makes it very quick, very easy. So I would like to, it's the first time I've asked you to promote this, and it's because I think what I'm about to share is the most important thing I've shared in our time together, as far as the most impactful and most relevant to our time right now. I was watching the Lance Armstrong documentary, and part 2 came on Sunday night, and so I watched it yesterday, and what a fascinating story. It's on 30 for 30. It has mature language throughout it, and when it says that, it is mature language that you hear on regular ESPN TV. But it was strong, but it was riveting, and so many different things to learn and perceive and grow, and so helpful on so many levels, and just a tragic story, but fascinating. And one of the things that Lance would often do to motivate him is he would, much like Michael Jordan would do, he would come up with a way that he was disrespected, or a slight that someone issued him, or some disrespectful comment toward him while he was racing, and he would use that as fuel. And he was a very much good guy, bad guy kind of thing. And of course, he was always the good guy and always the protagonist, and everybody else that he was competing against were the antagonists and the bad guys. And so he used that hatred to fuel his energy to compete. He wasn't gonna lose. And he always had to have a villain. And this quote just jumped out at me. He was talking about these bicyclists on different teams and how, kind and nice and friendly they were to each other, and even members of his own team. And he was just like, and he said, Jesus, get your hate on. Like taking the Lord's name in vain, just offhanded. Jesus, get your hate on. Like he was coaching them. Lance was raised by a militant father in his early years that would paddle him whenever his room wasn't picked up, when his drawers weren't pushed in the hallway in his dresser, when things weren't straight and neat and tidy. And this father drove him with just a militant, you're going to do your best, and just rode him very, very hard. And, one of the things that you see in Lance's life is that he would come with that same type of bully mentality toward his teammates and everybody else. And fascinating story. But that statement, Jesus, get your hate on. I mean, other than the paradox of saying, Jesus, get your hate on, using Jesus and hate together, that quote just really jumped out at me. And as we look at all that's going on in our world with peaceful protests turning violent and destructive, with protests that are drawing attention to the need for justice and respect toward the African American community and individuals, when encountering police officers, this protest feels a little bit like that quote, Jesus, get your hate on, whenever it turns destructive. Now, I said that quote to get to this quote. Many of us have wondered, well, what do I do? I don't have any black friends. I don't really know what to do. Well, first thing, I want to invite you to move to New Kensington. The single biggest gift that New Kensington has given me and my family through the public schools that my kids have all attended is the diversity that my children get to grow up and experience while under my roof. I've mentioned this before, but they get to experience racial diversity, socioeconomic diversity, moral diversity, intellectual diversity. They get to experience diversity and grow up with that being normal while under my watchful eye and my wife's watchful eye. And our kids have been richer and more blessed growing up with that. And I cannot stress enough, whatever you hear about New Kensington, whatever your perceptions about New Kensington, will not be completely accurate until you live in New Kensington and experience the beauty and magnificence of this community. You experience the diversity in this community. I'm about to show you why I feel so strongly about this. So my son has friends that are twins, Braden and Bryson. Hi, guys. And they're close friends. And last night, his mother posted this on Facebook. I called her, spoke with her for the first time, and asked if I could share this on Daylight. And she moved a year ago with her family, 2 or 3 kids, adult kids. She moved a block from the church, just right behind the church. A great little neighborhood, a great street. Just one of the beautiful places in our community. She moved there. And my son was so excited. Dad, did you know my friends are moving? He was so excited. They just live right behind the tree. He was so excited. So last night she posted this. I'm probably going to get emotional because it moves me so much. She said I could share her name if I wanted to. I'd prefer not to. But she said, I don't even know where to start. She said, I've lived in my house for a year. Well, 1 year ago, when I was moving in, she had described to me, I met my neighbors 2 doors away from me. Today, her and her husband knocked on my door and told me and my children that they vow to be better neighbors. And now she told me last night when I was speaking with her that they weren't bad neighbors. That they weren't bad neighbors at all, but they didn't interact a lot, just hi and bye and pleasantries as they passed by. Her and her husband knocked on my door and told me and my children that they vowed to be better neighbors. They made sure to tell us that our lives matter, and they apologize for what's going on in the world with racism. They included a handwritten card and a dinner for my children and I. I say that to say this. Even though I'm very much aware racism exists, that was a nice start. I had tears in my eyes. So to my neighbors, thank you for letting us know that our Black lives matter. And some of us have real issue with that phrase, Black Lives Matter. And I just want to, my son, 20-year-old son shared this with me the other night. He didn't come up with it. He just shared it with me. He said, Dad, you know how when people say Black Lives Matter and then others will say all lives matter? He said, that's true. All lives do matter. But it's a little bit like raising money for breast cancer and saying, well, we shouldn't raise money just for breast cancer because all cancer is deadly. We should raise money for all cancers matter. He said, just because we focus on one doesn't diminish the value of the other. And when he said that, I didn't have a response. I thought, you know what? That has given me a perspective I've not considered it regarding that phrase. I will look at that phrase differently now because of that. So when I read this quote to my son last night, who's close friends with her sons, very close friends, he was like, right on. Now he's 20. He didn't use the phrase right on, but he's like, that's right. That's true. Exactly. So I wanted to read this experience that she shared on Facebook because often we wonder, what can I do? I honestly just don't see myself picking up a sign and walking in a peaceful march. That's just not my thing. And it doesn't mean that I don't value people that are marching or their cause or their search for justice. But I have found that your attitudes, my attitude toward race gets significantly adjusted when I'm up close and personal with people of a different race. So the gift of New Kensington for me is the racial diversity that we have here. And being able to have the close friends, the dear close friends that I have that are Black. I wouldn't be able to have that living in Delmont to the extent that I do. And so when I beg you to prayerfully consider moving into this community, I'm begging you to consider it and see if God might be calling you here because of the blessing that you will receive being part of this community. Now, time for another sip. I was going to go somewhere else, but they say that the effects of anesthesia can live with you for 2 weeks, and whew, that journey I was just going to take us on just evaporated out of my mind. So I deeply appreciate sharing this with you, and I want to invite you to move toward different. Because when you move toward different, you learn and understand and begin to appreciate. I'm not saying embrace the mindset that you find offensive, but embrace a perspective and a person's experience that you might not have and might not be aware of. And so, conservative, liberal, I want to invite you, come close to someone on the other side and really seek to understand what drives them, what fuels them, what motivates them, why they feel so passionately about what they do and what they believe and what they value as they do. And in doing that, it won't make you a weaker person. It will help you do the opposite of, Jesus, get your hate on. It will help you learn to value even when your values don't match. And steps like this, that this husband and wife 2 doors down from my friend's mother, steps like this make a difference, make a change, help transform. And so I want to ask, would you prayerfully consider, who am I keeping at arm's length because I'm afraid, because I don't know, because it's unknown territory for me? And prayerfully consider and ask God, what next step do you want me to take? And if there's healing that takes place in our country on the racial level, it won't come from the top down. It will come from each of us, millions of us, finding healing in our preconceived notions, finding healing in our attitudes, finding healing in our relationships. So I ask you, in Jesus' name, get your love on. In Jesus' name, get your compassion on. In Jesus' name, get your servant's heart on. In Jesus' name, bless, love, give, understand, seek to understand. In Jesus' name, get your love on. Let's pray. Jesus, thank you for the fact that you came to us and moved toward us, and that we are able to find healing and life in and through you. And Father, may each of us move toward different in a way that reflects your heart. And Lord, I pray that you would bring healing to our country. I pray that grace and love and peace would prevail. And Father, I pray that you would continue to open my eyes to attitudes that I might have, to actions that I might be taking that I'm unaware of, that don't honor you in this way. And God, I just ask that you will give each person here the courage to follow the leadings and promptings that you might inspire in them to take that next step towards one who is different. Because relationships make all the difference. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you guys. Have a great day.